Hi, Dr. Janet Benjamin again. So I've had a few questions and need for clarification for some of the things that I presented last time. So let's get right into it, and we're going to talk today a little bit about boundaries, and then I'm going to present on some of my own personal information and how it fits into this either competition or relationship. So according to Dr. Cloud and Dr. Townsend, they are the experts in setting boundaries and understanding boundaries, and they have multiple books and videos and series of things on boundary setting. They talk about communication styles in 3 ways. So a person is either passive, where they are respectful only of others, and they don't trust themselves, and they don't have respect for themselves. Or conversely, they are aggressive, and aggressive people only trust themselves and are only respectful to themselves. They're not respectful to others. And in the middle portion of that is someone who is assertive. And an assertive person trusts themselves, but they also trust others, that window that we talked about. So they can see others' opinions and they can see their own opinions, and they are able to integrate those both because they trust other people and they trust themselves to trust other people. So going into that competition then means that you are only in a passive or an aggressive way of being, or passive aggressive, right? So a passive person will go into fight, flight, or freeze, and typically they will withdraw or they will freeze. And an aggressive person obviously will fight. And then the assertive portion of that is when you are truly in relationship and you see that other person and you see yourself. So people that are aggressive or passive aggressive tend to use strategies to get their attention or sense of value by using passive people, or people who use that as a strategy to get their needs met. So kind of understanding that there are phases when someone goes through a toxic relationship. The first phase is a love bombing phase. So the person that you're with hides their aggressive tendencies, and they tend to tell you all these amazing things about yourself and build up that sense of value in you, and are present, and you are the most amazing person on the planet, and they've never met anybody like you. They want to be with you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They want to be in constant contact, which feels good to someone who has had love starvation. And then they use, after that love bombing phase is done, because they can only do that for so long because it's not real. Remember, being a state of competition, they use that strategy to get you sucked in. The next phase of that is then the devaluation phase. And the devaluation phase for someone who is in a state of competition looks like aggression or passive aggressive behavior, constant criticism or constant looking at your behavior and telling you what you're doing not correctly, which 3 days ago was the most amazing thing ever. And it can flip-flop daily. I was told that I was an amazing human being, and then that day that I didn't know what I was talking about ever. And so it was very confusing. So I'll give you a kind of a little story from my own situation. I was in a relationship for a very short period of time at this point, and went to a football game with my then boyfriend, ex-spouse. And I dropped off my children and then went to get some food for us to eat. And I went to his favorite restaurant, which was across the town that we lived in, and thinking that he would be very excited that I had purchased something that was his favorite, because I am an enabler, and I also am a pleaser. So training 101 from my family of origin to not exist, or that I was only valuable if I was doing what other people wanted me to do. So going to this football game, I walked into the stadium and expected the love bomb, right? Oh, this is amazing. You're amazing. Thank you so much. And what happened was, within earshot of all these other parents, I was yelled at and devalued, screamed at, told how dumb that was and how it worried him and upset him and how dare I do that, and on and on and on and on. And instead of fleeing or instead of fighting, my training was to freeze. And so that's exactly what I did. I sat down in a chair and I just sat there for the rest of the game. And the other parents were looking at me and shocked that I was allowing this behavior. And he never noticed at all. And that was just stunning to me. But again, it's the frog in the water. It didn't happen overnight. There was a few of these little tiny incidents that had happened. And when it happened to me, my neurobiology and the cortisol levels that I was experiencing shut my system down, because that was training from my history and my family of origin. And so the next phase, because that lasted 3 or 4 days where that was the case, that I was being told how terrible I was, and it was little ways. It was covert, not that big outburst, but then all these little tiny things that would continue to happen over a few day period of time, screaming in the car, freaking out about one of the children or things like that. And then would come the love bombing phase again, because after the cortisol wears out in 3 or 4 days, you're able to kind of think again and be able to say, hey, let's sit down and talk about that wasn't okay, or that's not acceptable behavior. And then the love bombing comes back and you're getting sucked back in. And so it's just this constant back and forth and barrage, because you are a supply to them, like an emotional vampire. You are giving them supply by freezing, or interestingly enough, you are giving them supply by being angry at them. So if I was aggressive, there would also be supply, because it's this rush of adrenaline for them to get you to engage or react. And so the respond versus reacting video by Meredith Miller is a lifesaver. I totally want you to look that up. It helped me kind of understand how to be in communication about this stuff and not necessarily take it personally and get upset about it, but really just hold my ground and say, that's not going to work. And again, it's your ability to create value in yourself and know that you are a valuable person, then stepping back and being able to build on that and learn to trust yourself and trust your judgment and not look for other people to give you value and to only trust what they are saying. You are the only person that knows you. And as much as I would like to think other people do know who I am, I have given myself enough information with all of the learning that I've done, especially in the last 2 years, in knowing that I have to build that sense of who I am every day, create self-awareness and value in what I do, and then other people can know what I do or who I am from what I've taught myself. And so again, going back to trusting yourself, learning how to trust yourself, and taking care of yourself, and self-care, super, super important in not being a victim of toxic relationships. So I will present more on value, which is different than worth, and an understanding of next week how to build a sense of personal value. And I hope that this video finds all of you well and that you're working on self-care because it is major league important.